you want to hear some music? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Well, today you're going to get all the music you want.
The request lines are now open. KGFJ Soul Radio.
Do it now, man.
Request lines are now.
It's open, man.
Got any Blue Oyster Cult?
No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult. I ate 34 pairs last time around. Where were you? I was that close to working at 7-Eleven, you know.
Pass the word along. Tell the men it's time to shoot the moon.
Shoot the moon!
Out there on the microphone. On the microphone.
Shoot the moon. Shoot the moon.
The attitude dictates that you don't care whether she comes, stays, lays, or prays. I mean, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping.
Hey, Strawberry! Oh, Strawberry. Hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? This is my friend.
Hey, how you doing, man?
What you looking at, man?
Oh, nothing. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his neck, man.
Can you honestly tell me that you forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
Kid stuff. Well, how about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Build your muscles picking strawberries. You know, Band and Scoop. Maybe I could get you a job with United Fruit. I got a buddy with United Fruit. Start with strawberries, you might work your way up to these goddamn bananas. When, boy, are you gonna get your act together?
We're creating a society of cell phone crazed, marijuana smoking zombies.
Coming to you not quite live from Lukewarm Tallboy Studios deep in the land of Gar, this is Bend and Scoop, the podcast featuring music, mirth, and minutia, focused on exposing artists you probably haven't heard, but should. I'm Bob, and I'll be your tour guide on this amazingly asymmetric auditory adventure as we journey to the center of your cochlea. Welcome to episode 25. We can rent a car now. Joining us at the end of the show for our Groovin' After Party will be our very special guest, Nate Wilcox from the Let It Roll podcast, sharing his own personal musical journey with a round of Is That Your Vinyl Answer? We spread the gospel of vinyl here at Bend and Scoop, so be sure to tell us all about your favorite neighborhood record store by posting to @BendScoop on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag SpinMomandPop. Our record store of the week is Waterloo Records in Austin, one of 5 record stores I made it to last weekend. I also visited my longtime pal Greg Ellis at Groover's Paradise, made some great and very hospitable new friends at Piranha Records, and also enjoyed stopping by Antone's and Breakaway Records as well. There's a very helpful resource I used that consolidates information about record stores in the Austin area called Vinyl Around Austin, which you can check out at vinylaroundaustin.com. As for Waterloo Records, you can follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Waterloo Records, or you can check out their website at waterloorecords.com. Kicking things off is Nashville's accurately named music band from their 2020 album Celebration with Over and Over on Bend and Scoop.
Like a bolt of lightning, over and over, crying out, I'm not a machine. Like a knife through the air, cuts your zodiac, I don't care. I just don't want to feel like this. The storm was over. 68. This is San Francisco, KNBR.
Perhaps I should have saved that one for our New Year's episode. New Resolution by Heartless Bastards off 2003's Stairs and Elevators. One of the other podcasts I'm a part of is called Plausible Deniability, which I co-host with my good friend David Miller. You can follow Plausible Deniability on Twitter and Instagram, both at PausDeny, and listen on Spotify, Apple, or most other podcast platforms, with new episodes posted the first day of every month. If you've ever seen the hilarious show Difficult People on Hulu, you'll recognize this next song, as it was the closing theme for each episode. Here's Louisville, Kentucky's White Reaper with Half Bad on Bend and Scoop.
Yeah.
junk.
What are you talking about, junk, man? This is antiques, man. This is old.
It's plastic. Hey, let's call it a night, man. We got enough stuff already.
Cabron! It's my sculpture. Hey, man, be careful with it, huh? Okay, all right.
Hey, man, is it worth taking this thing?
What, are you crazy, man? This is art.
Well, art sure is ugly, man.
Yeah, that's how much you know, man, you know? The uglier the art, the more it's worth.
Well, this must be worth a fortune, man.
That's right. It's about that famous guy, Siegel.
Yeah?
Yeah, you seen him? He's on the Carson show, man. Plays banjo all the time.
I never watched Carson.
Yeah. Well, that's how much you know about art. Stay home.
I know, man. I'd take a stereo any day.
Yeah, what do you know, man? A stereo's a stereo. Art is forever.
From one of the wilder album titles of the 21st century so far, 2006's Prince Umberto and the Sister of Ill, that was Freak Ya Loneliness by Australia's Bumblebees, with a Z. Another podcast I'm a part of is called Campfire Songs, where I get together with my buddies Tom, Jim, and Todd to share and discuss 3 songs each. Follow us on Twitter at Songs Campfire and give us a listen on Apple Podcasts. Speaking of songs, remember to be sure and check out our Bend and Scoop Spotify playlist. If we played it and they have it, you can listen to it there. This next song, by an up-and-coming country artist from Oklahoma called Tennessee Jet, sounds a little Nirvana-esque, but it's actually about 50s honky-tonk legend Johnny Horton. It's simply called Johnny, here on Bend and Scoop.
sweet girl. Hey. John read the eulogy, weep beneath the willow tree, tears on a Texas street, the patter of Delia's feet. I'll never get out alive, so lonesome I could drive down Highway 79, listen to the whispering pines. The drummer was a rummer and it can't hold a beat. I ain't no second comer, but you'll hear it from me. I said it, gonna say it to you. Listen to me, Merle. I did it for the love of a girl. I did it for the love of a real sweet girl. That's right. I did it for the love of a girl. I did it all for the love of a real sweet girl.
Bobby Magic is here to play more music.
Here's a list of all the fucking fights I lost.
That's A List of All the Fights I Lost in Public by the Jones Sisters, which is a side project of the ubiquitous Bobby Bear Jr., whose solo career, often supported by the Young Criminals Starvation League, dates back more than 20 years, the past 5 of which he's also spent moonlighting as guitarist for the legendary Guided by Voices. He's really carved out quite a name for himself outside the impressive shadow cast by his country music Hall of Fame father. Just a quick reminder about the podcast where you're the host and I'm the guest, called Assume the Juxtaposition, which you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at AssumeTJPod. If you'd like to host an episode of Assume the Juxtaposition, send me your topic idea by emailing lukewarmtallboy@gmail.com. Don't forget, if you enjoy listening to what we do here on Bend and Scoop, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review us at Apple Podcast or anywhere you get your podcasts. Here's a fun, unearthed treasure dating back to 1981, found by my buddy Dalen. It's a lost power pop band from Brooklyn called Central Departure, singing about the rock and roll DJ on Bend and Scoop.
Husband was a movie freak. He was particularly obsessed with one movie, The Wizard of Oz. He talked about it constantly. I thought it was cute at first. On our wedding night, I was a virgin. When we made love, you've seen the film, haven't you?
The Wizard of Oz? Yeah, I've seen it.
Well, when we made love, whenever when he came, he would just scream out, "Surrender, Dorothy." That's all. Just surrender, Dorothy.
Wow.
Oh, instead of moaning or saying, "Oh, God," or something normal like that. I mean, it was pretty creepy. And I told him I thought so, but he just couldn't stop. He just couldn't stop. He just couldn't stop. He said he didn't even realize it was happening. He just couldn't stop. So I just broke the whole thing off.
Just when you thought there was no place left to go, the music scene stopped, and you all know when the cover bands get
Closing out that obscure early 80s power pop twofer was New Jersey's The Modulators with Down at the Dirt off their 1984 album Tomorrow's Coming. The very first podcast I was ever a part of is still going strong today, called How Many, where my buddies Jesse, Junior, Gary, and Scott discuss and debate a variety of pop culture topics, including movies, sports, TV, music, and more. You can follow that podcast on Twitter at HowManyPodcast and listen at HowManyPodcast.com. Don't forget to stick around for the end of the show when we'll be joined in the Groovin' After Party by our special guest Nate Wilcox from the Let It Roll podcast. We make every effort not to repeat artists whenever possible, but after last week's homecoming episode, I guess we're okay now sharing new releases by our alums, including this fresh release from Vancouver's Yukon Blonde off Vindicator. Here's Big Black Cloud on Bend and Scoop.
Face, look right in place. I couldn't interrupt you now. gonna pull me up into your big black cloud. Your stormy weather is a little too rough up in your big black cloud.
The unmistakable voice. June 13th at Pacific Amphitheater and June 14th at the Forum. No, insane. The non-stop go tour, live. The Fortitude, the man who forged Led Zeppelin. A musical journey from the past into the future. The focal point of rock, Robert Plant, June 13th at Pacific Amphitheater and June 14th, Robert Plant at the Forum. Reserved seats for both shows go on sale this Monday at 9 a.m. Tickets for the Pacific Amphitheater show available at the box office and Ticketron. Tickets for the Forum show available at all Ticketmaster outlets or charge by phone. The tall, cool one, Robert Plant.
Pure Rock KNAC, your #1 concert connection.
Ain't shady, baby, I'm hot like the prodigal son. Big up battle, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and flower, you're the chosen one. Well, your left hand's free, and your right's in grip, with another left hand watches right and slip. Schwartz is gone. I tackle Jesus. Ain't shady, baby, I'm hot, like the prodigal son. Big up Bartolini, meeny, money, mo, and flower, you're the chosen one. Well, your left hand's free. Well, my 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 left hand's free.
From across the pond in Leeds, that's Alt J. From 2014's This Is All Yours, with Left Hand Free. It doesn't take a wild imagination to guess what the right hand was probably doing. You can listen to this podcast any time of day, but the ideal time just might be after hours.
Why don't you just go home?
I've been asking myself that one all night long.
So what happened? Why can't you?
I met this girl tonight, okay, in a coffee shop.
I feel like something incredible is really going to happen here.
So when I got home, I gave her a call. On the cab on the way down here, all my money flew out the window. I didn't really get along with her that well.
What's the matter?
I said, I want to see a plaster of Paris bagel and cream cheese paperweight. Now cough it up. So I left.
Kiki!
So I haven't got enough money to get home until I meet this bartender who wanted to lend me the money.
That's all right, forget it. That's all right.
Poor boy.
So I go back to the girl's apartment, but her roommate's really pissed off at me for the way I treated her friend.
This the guy?
Hi. So I march right in there to apologize. Come on!
But she'd already killed herself. I was too late.
Oh, wow.
Lighten up! What is this?
I'm in big trouble. I mean, big trouble.
Now this part, you're gonna say, oh, you're lying to me. Don't lie to me, but it's true.
Mohawk this guy.
I couldn't believe that.
It's him.
Tell him, it's not my fault. I didn't do it.
I gotta tell who you didn't do what.
Help! 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 Call the police!
What's with you? Are you nuts or something?
Luckily, there was this girl who saw the whole thing.
You're dead, pal.
And what? So now she's the one in the Mr. Softy ice cream truck who's trying to kill me. They're all trying to kill me. I mean, I just wanted to leave. You know, my apartment, maybe meet a nice girl. And now I've got to die for it, you know?
What do you want from me? What have I done? I'm just a word processor, damn it.
Is that all there is?
After hours, when anything can happen, and usually does.
Is that unbelievable or what?
That's all there is, my friends. Then let's keep dancing.
Take that last train to Clarksville. I'll be waiting at the station. You can be there by 4:30, 'cause I've made your reservation. Don't be slow. Cause I'm leaving in the morning and I must see you again. We'll have one more night together till the morning brings my train and I must go. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. And I don't know if I'm ever coming home. Take the last train to Clarksville. I'll be waiting at the station. We'll have time for coffee, flavored kisses, and a bit of conversation. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. Take the last train to Clarksville. Now I must hang up the phone. I can't hear you in this noisy railroad station. All alone, I'm feeling low. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. And I don't know if I'm ever coming home.
People listen to people. So listen, people.
Welcome to the Groovin' After Party. Come on in and pour yourself a cold one.
Joining us in our Groovin' After Party here on Bend and Scoop is a very special guest. We have Nathan from Let It Roll, the Let It Roll podcast. Thanks for joining us, Nathan.
My pleasure.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Let It Roll?
Well, Let It Roll is a podcast about music history that I started with Ed Ward, who had been the longtime music historian on NPR's Fresh Air. And Ed wrote a great 2-volume set, History of Rock and Roll from 1920 to 1974. And I had the opportunity to interview him at length multiple times. And that sort of turned into this crazy ambition I've got to document all of musical history, at least from the beginning of the recorded era up to the 21st century, in a series of podcasts. So far, about 102 episodes into it, and we'll see how far we get.
That's very impressive. How many years have you been doing it?
I think we started in 2018.
It's a lot of episodes in just a couple of years. You're really staying on top of it. I recently listened to the AC/DC episode you guys did. I enjoyed that quite a bit. You had the guy that wrote the Highway to Hell book.
Joe Bonomo, sorry.
No problem. That is a tongue twister. But yeah, I really enjoyed that because I am a huge fan of AC/DC myself. And it's interesting to hear the back and forth between the two eras, although I did have to cringe a little bit because I am one of the very, very few out there who is a at least mild defender of Fly on the Wall. But we won't waste too much time on that. I understand why people don't like that album very much. I think part of it's a nostalgia thing for me. I would say by far Flick of the Switch is their worst album. It's absolutely god awful. But other than that, I think you guys we're right on par with our opinions on a lot of that stuff. And it was really interesting because one thing I liked was the way that, you guys talked about kind of the grappling with the nature of the lyrical content, especially in light of the views today on some of the things that really are more kind of misogynistic in retrospect. So I thought it was interesting that, you didn't just kind of, rubber stamp, hey, this is great music, but you really kind of took a deep dive into all the components of it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's what we try to do on the show is look at, kind of how and why it was made, where it came from, when it happened, what the scene it came out of, and how it looks today in retrospect to the extent we can tell.
Well, it's really great, and I definitely endorse the podcast, so everybody out there give Let It Roll a listen for sure. So Nathan, what we want to do here is learn a little bit more about your personal musical journey, and we're going to play around with something we call, Is That Your Vinyl Answer? Starting off, we want to find out, what was the first record you ever bought for yourself?
This was actually a stumper for me because I have a lot of vivid memories. I'm the youngest of 6 children, so I inherited a lot of records that we had in the house when I came along, and then I was paying very close attention to the records that the youngest brother besides myself bought. So I very much remember the first record that I listened to and actively put on the turntable, which was the New York Dolls' second album, Too Much Too Soon. But thinking about it, I think the first album I bought with my own money, it was actually 2 albums at once. And I was 10. This was the first time that my mother and I moved to Arlington, Texas, so she could finish her grad school. And it was just me and her. All the big siblings were off to college. And so I had to buy my own music. And the first records I bought were the Beatles' Abbey Road and Hey Jude, which is a compilation album people forget about, but it put together Hey Jude and a bunch of other singles that hadn't been collected and had the final photo shoot the Beatles ever did for the cover.
Good one to start with. Personally, I think Abbey Road's their best album. I know a lot of folks go with Revolver or Sgt. Pepper, but I'm a huge Abbey Road guy myself. So well done. Do you remember where it was that you bought it?
It was a place called Zebra Records in Arlington, which I think was a chain. It might have been a DFW only chain, but I'm pretty sure there was at least more than one location. But this one was just down Cooper Street from our apartments, which were right across the street from the UTA campus and right across from a Baskin-Robbins. So I would always go swimming, get my mom to take me to Baskin-Robbins and beg her to let me go to the record store.
Do you, by any chance, happen to still have it?
I do not have either of those 2 vinyl. They were both late 70s kind of cheapo records. records that like
Yeah.
if you get a copy of those records that were printed in the late 60s or early 70s, they're thick vinyl and nice solid cardboard, but by the late 70s came around, they were thin, cheap-ass vinyl records with really cheap cardboard covers. I know the Hey Jude album fell apart. Like the glue came apart when I was in high school. And I don't remember what happened to the Abbey Road album, but I replaced it with the CDs around that time and never regarded it as a special collectible, which I guess I should have.
Now, did you do that with most of your vinyl when CDs came out and just kind of wholesale swap them out, or did you hold on to any of them?
I was actually really late to having my own CD player. I got like a Sony Walkman or the Sony Discman that I could plug into my stereo, but that wasn't a very good solution. So I was pretty much vinyl only well into the 90s. But with the Beatles stuff, I'm pretty sure I had that Abbey Road record probably into the 2000s. I don't think I bought the full Beatles on CD until around 1999, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for some reason, I was so fascinated and taken with the CD. I think I was still in college when the CDs really, I think mass production came on the market probably around 86, 87, 88, somewhere in that time frame. And I just remember being in college and just like, I had a buddy that worked at Walmart. I'm like, you got to get me your discount so I can buy a CD player. I was just so like, I just couldn't wrap my head around being able to get to a track in the middle of the album immediately without having to place the needle in just the perfect place or to fast forward the cassette. It was like, to me, that was a game changer. And unfortunately, got rid of all my vinyl to get the CDs, and such a bad idea. It really was unfortunate. Which band or artist albums do you own the most? Is it the Beatles or someone else?
It would definitely be the Beatles, yeah.
Okay, so you said of theirs, the Abbey Road might be your favorite?
It's hard for me to pick a favorite. I think that the British Hard Day's Night is probably my current favorite. That's a really undersung album, but it's all Lennon-McCartney songs, and it's just, the early Beatles, I think, at their peak. But Abbey Road's another favorite. Revolver is a favorite. It's hard for me to pick favorites, but those are three of my favorite Beatles albums.
Do you know which album, Beatles or otherwise, that you've had to purchase the most or replace the most over the years? Is there one that you've just got in multiple formats or bought as gifts or worn out?
It's got to be the White Album. I had a cat piss problem at one point.
Very easy to detect on the White Album,
yes,
compared to some others, yes.
And so I had a bad tomcat, and he glued the White Album together, and I had to buy it again. And then college roommate left it. I don't know why he put it on the stove, but he left it on the stove and melted one of the discs. So I know I had to buy that one at least 3 times on vinyl and again on CD. And then when the mono came out, I bought that, and the remix came out, and I bought that. So I've bought the White Album probably more than any other single record.
And they just recently came out with that, was it the 50th anniversary expanded edition? It had all the demos and everything on it?
Yep.
So who among your friends and family has the largest vinyl collection of anyone you know? Is it yourself?
No, I actually had to liquidate most of my records in 2005 when I moved to D.C. into a very small apartment. Actually, I moved into Alexandria, Virginia. And so I liquidated all but just a handful of my most favorite or rarest records. But my oldest friend in the world, a guy named Greg Orsak, has the biggest vinyl collection and CD collection of anybody I know. He has many of my old records and got a whole stack of them for a chicken fried steak one time when we were 15 and I was very hungry. Just one of those people that ends up acquiring a lot of your property over time.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, how much vinyl do you currently own in your collection?
I counted it up and I have 17 vinyl albums left.
Okay. Now, are you in the process of expanding that collection, or is that something that kind of as is?
At the moment, I'm holding. I'm not expanding. I'm pretty much, it's not ideal, but I listen to most music streaming. And because of the show I'm doing and just the nature of trying to research massive amounts of music, I mean, I'm trying to get familiar with whole genres of music I've never paid any attention to before. So streaming is pretty much essential for me to be able to kind of skim across the surface of these musical genres. And I would never be able to do it if I had to buy physical copies of everything I'm trying to track down and listen to.
Yeah, that's a great point. Vinyl is not cheap. It is it's a pricey hobby.
And it's bulky and we have, very little space. Got the whole family in quarantine, so it's pretty tight.
It's not practical, but for some reason seem to be drawn to it. What's your favorite record store, Nathan? Do you have one currently, or could be Zebra or any others that you remember from the past?
I'd say my favorite current record store, although I'm not sure how they're doing in quarantine. I should have checked in on them, is End of an Ear in Austin, Texas. They've just moved down to Ben White Boulevard a couple years ago. And my all-time favorite record store, which is still open, would be Waterloo Records in Austin.
Yeah, Waterloo's a long time staple. I actually grew up just south of Austin, so I'd been in that area quite a bit. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Groover's Paradise. It's up on the lake.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine owns that place. When I was growing up in San Marcos, he was the manager of the local record store there called Sundance, and the owner of that store just like within the past week or two passed away.
I saw that. That was sad.
Yeah, but Greg Ellis is the owner there at Groover's Paradise. So if you have a chance to get up there, it's a great, it's a little bit of a hike, but it's a great location visually, and he's got a really nice shop. Good dude. Tell us a little bit about how folks can follow Let It Roll on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. What's the best way to keep tabs on you?
We're on Twitter at Let It Roll Cast, and we're on Facebook at Let It Roll Podcast. And I think those are the two. I don't have an Instagram yet or anything, so those are the two social media places to follow Let It Roll. And we're part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, and you can get us on iTunes and Spotify and Amazon and all the places you listen to your podcasts.
Awesome. Any special guests or special episodes you got coming up here in the next couple weeks?
Just dropped the 3rd episode of our 9th season, which is an interview with Chuck Haddix, which was a fun one and a classic example of it's about Kansas City jazz from ragtime to bebop. So I was sort of shallowly familiar with Count Basie, and I knew a little Charlie Parker, but getting into Benny Moten's orchestra from the 20s or the Walter Page Blue Devils and that kind of stuff was really fun, and I really learned a ton. That's kind of how I judge a music book, is what I can learn the most from, and that was I just feel like Kansas City jazz was a direct mainstream that rock and roll sprang from, and it's great music in its own right. I really had an epiphany of getting Count Basie in a big way. I'd liked Count Basie. I saw, this is cool, but I'd never really had my mind blown listening to Count Basie until I was preparing for this episode, and that really clicked, and I suddenly got it. That's what I'm looking for, is that peak experience that I had with the Beatles when I was 10.
Have you seen the Robert Altman film, Kansas City, that's about that era?
I have, and it's fascinating to me the way that if you know Kansas City today, it's hard to believe it was a vice capital for decades. I mean, gambling, prostitution, bootlegging, drugs, anything you wanted in a bad way you could get in Kansas City. And that had the byproduct of making it a cultural capital that produced all this great music, and it's just kind of ironic that scumbags devoted to profit and vice accidentally produced great American music.
Yeah, it's something good out of a bad situation otherwise.
Yep.
Definitely. Well, Nathan, thanks so much for being on. Again, folks, Let It Roll. Give it a listen. Great podcast. Thanks again, and we'll look forward to more. Maybe by this time next year, you'll get closer to 200 on your episode count.
That's the plan.
All right, buddy. Hey, thanks a lot. Take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Bye-bye, lard ass.
Bend and Scoop is a production of Lukewarm Tallboy Studios.